Do you make decisions quickly, or do you suffer from the paralysis of analysis? That can have a lot to do with your temperament. Hi, good morning. I'm Colleen Hammond, and today we are going to be talking about the three-step process to make better decisions. Let's get started. Paralysis of analysis, or do you just make flippant decisions? You know, a lot of it has to do with your temperament. If you haven't taken my temperaments class, make sure you use that May coupon for 20% off, and you can get that at a discount. But knowing when to make decisions, if to make decisions, and what decisions to make, oftentimes boils down to not just your temperament, but your emotional intelligence as well. Are you aware? Do you have the experience? Do you have that wisdom that only comes with years of experience? So today we're going to talk about a three-step process, and each step kind of breaks down. I'm trying to make it simple with 3 steps, but each step brings it down to make better decisions, because every day we're faced with decisions. And you know, this isn't included in one of the 3 steps, but number 1 is knowing when your golden hours are. And when is your brain power at its highest? When do you make better decisions, right? You love the behind the scenes, Lori said. Yeah, before I hit the record button, if you're watching on YouTube, I faded to black and then I had some adjustments to make, so I was talking. So if you don't have a copy of my free ebook, how to increase your willpower and make better decisions, go to the bit.ly link, bit.ly, more willpower. And if you're watching on Facebook, let me go ahead and put that in the notes here, or in the chat box. It's just a free ebook, and it just goes through how to make better decisions, how to know when your golden hours are, and how to maximize that. So that's going to be the first thing that you want to think about, is don't make decisions if you have time. I mean, some of them are urgent, but if you have time, don't make a decision when you're tired. Don't make a decision when you're not at your peak brain power, or when you're feeling super emotional. So let's talk about the 3 steps. And the first step is to sort. You need to sort through and remember. Do you remember the decision quadrant? If something is important and urgent, or if it's important and not urgent, and then the not important, but urgent, but not important, you know, so the gray area at the bottom. So we're going to talk about number 1 is urgent, important. That's how you're going to slot these down and sort them out. If it's important and urgent, that's the first thing you want to address. If it's important and not urgent, will be the second thing I'll talk about. And then the bottom 2, important and urgent, and important and not urgent, will be the third that I'll talk about. So first of all, sort them down. Is it urgent and important? So those are the ones you have to focus on first. And sometimes those are the ones that we procrastinate on. You know, it's like such a big decision. We want to make sure we don't make a mistake. And when it's important and urgent is when expedience, you know, and urgency, is needed. So is it a pressing problem? Is it something only you can handle, or do you need outside input? So you need to know to act swiftly. And it's something that needs to be decided right now. I think the things that holds us back is don't you always want to make the right decision? Right? You want to make the right decision, but you're never going to be 100% right 100% of the time. So when it's urgent and important, if you have time to seek outside counsel, do so. If not, make a decision and then adjust later, because you manage the outcome. You adjust as you go down the road. But some things are so pressing and so urgent that they need to be addressed right now, and you can't delegate this, and you can't, you know, maybe you have time to seek outside input, maybe you don't. So these are the things that, just like Nike says, supportive spouses, just do it. Exactly. So then if we move into the second quadrant that was up on the upper right-hand corner, that's, you know, urgent and important, or not important, right? The pros and cons are going to be easier to see sometimes, because you've lost that pressure of the urgency. So it's important, but not necessarily urgent. These also, depending on your temperament, may be the decisions that you're tempted to procrastinate on. And because there is no deadline, it doesn't have that sense of urgency. So in the urgent situation, you may feel the need to procrastinate because it's like, oh, I want to make sure I make the right decision. This is so important, right? And then this one is like, yeah, it's important, but it's not that urgent. So I'm going to take time to do all this research. So getting outside input in something like this uh, um, is important. But with this type of situation, it's important for you to set yourself a deadline. If you have time to consult outside people, do so. But also make sure that you get it down on paper. You may not have time to get an urgent and important something down on paper, but if it's important but not urgent, you have time to do a pro and con list, which is called a Ben Franklin list, because this is what Franklin came up with. If I make this decision, what are the good things that will come from it? What are the bad things that may come from it? If I make this decision, what are the good things and the bad things that may come from that? So getting it down on paper, doing a Ben Franklin, so you can remove your emotions from it. If you find yourself tying your emotions and your biases into things, that's where a lot of this decision making can get bogged down as well, because of past regrets, future fears, and getting tied up into the emotions. And when you do a Ben Franklin and sit down and get it on paper, that helps you remove the emotion and just look at the logic. Good things that can happen, bad things that can happen. Now, you may have a list that has 10 good things and one bad thing, but that one bad thing is just a really big bad thing. So it's a weighted decision as well. It doesn't mean the more you have in this column makes it the better decision. You need to weigh those options. But something happens when you take pen and paper or pencil and paper and write it down, and you're able to see it in front of you in black and white, or purple and white if you're using a purple pen. That will help you with that decision-making process. And because this is not urgent, you do want to set yourself a deadline to make the decision, but it's important to remember that sometimes it's best to just sleep on it. Sometimes the better thing to do is just to take a break, go for a walk, meditate, get away from the decision, and then you can come back and focus on your plan. But make sure, if it's important but not urgent, that you set yourself a deadline. And then finally, the urgent and not urgent and not important, or urgent and not important. Those bottom two that were across the bottom of the screen. Remember these two, the not important and urgent, but the not important and not urgent. These are the ones that you can delegate, maybe. Or you can use this as a teaching moment or a coaching moment with your children. You can teach them how to make a decision-making process. Or if you're coaching somebody and working with somebody, these are the decisions that you can sit down and help other people learn how to make decisions with these types of not important, not urgent, important, not important and not urgent. And these tend to be the ones that we procrastinate on as well, because you don't have that sense of urgency. So it's and it's not that important of a deal. But oftentimes making these type of decisions will help you get it off of your brain and get it off the back of your head. So that's number one, is to sort. See what I mean? There's really 3 steps, but that first one's a big one. You have to sort it. What kind of decision are you looking at? And decide then what you want to do with it. And number 2, I've kind of talked about this one already, but get it down on paper. Identifying your long-term goals is really important too. When you're putting these things down on paper and you're able to see, if I make this decision, good and bad. If I make this decision, good and bad. When you get it down on paper, it helps you identify your long-term goals as well. So, and your internal biases. So let's say you want to quit a job and move on to something else. Is it that you want a different career? Is it that you want to progress into a different job, a different company, a different line of work? Or do you just have a bad boss that you're trying to get away from? That could be the issue as well. So don't make a decision based on the wrong problem. The problem isn't your career. The problem isn't the job. The problem's the boss. So you're making a huge decision based on the wrong problem, if you know what I mean. So getting it down on paper will help you narrow those things down as well. And then number 3 is, with most things, you want to do a post-mortem, a post-decision analysis. So on the urgent, important things, the number 1, that you have to make that decision. It's an emergency. You have to make that decision right now. You make the best decision as possible, and then you adjust. Or if it's important and you not urgent, you've set yourself a deadline and you've made that decision. Or in the ones that you can delegate, afterwards, you want to go and look, what factors should I have I considered that I missed? How could I have implemented that decision more effectively? Maybe it was the right decision, but it wasn't implemented well. And what did I do that seemed to work particularly well? What specific thing that I did worked really, really well? And it's when you take the time to stop, pause, and look back and reflect that more learning can come that will help you to make a better decision the next time, no matter what quadrant you're in. So again, the first thing is you want to sort it and look at that quadrant. Is it important and urgent? That's something that you need to do right away. It's pressing. Act swiftly, decide it now. You're not going to don't worry about it being 100% right. Just make a decision and then manage the outcome. Is it important but not urgent? You can have time to get some outside input and consult other people. Take a break, sleep on it, meditate. But you want to focus on a plan and set a deadline that the decision needs to be made, and then make it and get it off your plate. And then number 3 is that gray area at the bottom. They're urgent and not important, or not urgent and not important. You can either delegate these decisions to somebody else, or use this as a teaching moment or a coaching moment to allow others to help you make the decision. Number 2 is going to be get it down on paper, identify long-term goals, values, and beliefs, and make sure that you're making a decision based on the actual problem and not the wrong problem, like quitting a job because of a bad boss. And then, of course, afterwards, making sure number 3 is doing a post-mortem analysis. And understanding, again, you'll probably never make the perfect decision in your life. But having a few steps to follow will hopefully increase your chances of making a better decision. If not this time, but by doing a post-mortem analysis, you'll be able to make a better decision next time. So I hope these tips were helpful for you. If you like, comment, and share. If you're not following me yet on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you'll know when I upload, because I don't upload every single solitary day, but I try to get all the shows uploaded as possible. And make sure that you like, comment, and share on this so that Facebook knows that you're getting some value. All right, I appreciate you being here, and make sure that you check in next time. So we'll see you tomorrow morning on Coffee with Colleen. Thanks. Bye.